Hello. The purpose of this video is to mostly give me a convenient way of telling people, because I have a lot of anxiety about telling people my preferences, and I thought it would be useful to be able to send a YouTube link whenever I needed to tell someone. So I spent a ton of effort making this PowerPoint so I could avoid a few seconds of awkwardness in conversation, which seemed completely reasonable to me. Too long, didn't read. What do you need to know? I'm a trans woman. My name is Ezra. My pronouns are she, her. I like flower crowns a lot, and I want you to call me pretty. Please call me pretty. And that's it. That's truly, those 5 things are the only things you need to know. And the rest of this PowerPoint is just going to be a psychoanalysis of my journey, and how I figured out those 5 different points. But I would totally understand if you don't need that context to respect me. So if you don't need that and you don't want to listen to probably like 10 more minutes of me rambling, have a good one. Thank you for listening, and goodbye. But for the rest of you, this should be fun, talking about how the fuck I figured all this out. So let's start there. My friends wanted to host a goth night, and I thought it would be really funny if I went as a flower girl to juxtapose their gothiness, right? I would be a rose inside of a flower of black, or a sea of black. And I did it, and no one laughed. No one laughed. In fact, I got called pretty a lot. And we went out to sushi the next morning, actually, and I got catcalled from the street while we were walking down the sidewalk, which was really weird, but made me feel weird. So this sparked some uncomfortable thoughts, and I started going down a complete identity spiral, and this was probably the lowest point for me in this journey. It was right after I started feeling all these thoughts, and I had true doubt about my identity. Because beforehand, I was very comfortable sitting on my laurels and just claiming that identity doesn't matter, gender doesn't matter, and I'm comfortable with what I was assigned, and that was really convenient. And now I'm not so comfortable with that, and I start freaking the hell out. And I have some points here of internal thoughts versus external evidence. Internal thought, I'm only doing it for attention. External evidence, I started dressing femme alone, which is a hell of a thing to do when you're trying to get attention. I only did it because I was raised by my mom, and I just liked feminine things because I was raised by my mom, and the external evidence for that is my brother was also raised by my mom, and he doesn't care for femininity like that. And I fall back on the apathy part of my convictions and say, just gender's dumb. It's just dumb. It's stupid. Why care? And yet I can't stop thinking about it, and the idea of my gender not being what I always thought it was terrifying. And then I landed on, well, I just like being pretty, but I'm not a woman. I just like being pretty. I'm just a feminine man that likes being pretty. But I had already started fantasizing about being a woman, and had even picked out a feminine name, which we will get to later. And then I start recontextualizing my entire fucking life. And this was exhausting. Every single one of these bullet points will send me crying as I realize them. So my only understanding at this point is I like being pretty. I don't know what my identity is. I don't know fucking anything. But I like being pretty. So I start thinking through that. Okay, I've had this desire to be pretty probably for a long time. So I start thinking through that. I'm like, okay, can I prove that? So some things I start thinking about is in middle school, girls would sometimes put my hair up and put makeup on me and parade me around the school, and I really liked that. And probably the biggest one is that between the ages of like 11 and 13, I pretended to be a girl online because my voice hadn't dropped yet. So I was often mistaken for being a girl, and I thought that was so interesting that I started leaning into that belief. And I wasn't catfishing, because I think catfishing is only for when you're dating someone and pretend to be the wrong gender, or the gender you're not. I wasn't dating anyone at this time. I just enjoyed being a girl online, which is telling. But I at the time afterwards, after a few years after that had happened, I had chalked it up to me just wanting attention online, and I wasn't getting that attention in middle school because for whatever reason. So I just wanted attention, and I didn't think of anything. I didn't think of it anymore. And I hated when my voice dropped. After my voice dropped, I couldn't be Emily anymore. I started trying to do voice training, what I now know to be voice training, but I tried to keep Emily's voice, and I couldn't. It was really painful, and so I burned every bridge and started being Ryan again online. And a general point, I've always trusted women more. I've always surrounded myself with women. I found men to be unpredictable, and I didn't like that. And I grew my hair out in COVID, and I loved it. I loved growing my hair out when I grew my hair out in COVID. That was my little COVID project. And I kept it, and I never stopped keeping it. And this list is not exhaustive. None of these on their own scream, "Oh my God, you're a woman," except maybe the Emily thing. That was pretty telling. But their collective existence gave me a cosmic fear that sent me into a blubbering, crying mess on multiple occasions. And this is where I start really feeling my fucking feelings. This is we're hurting at this point. So to talk about something a bit more on the lighter side, I'm having all of these thoughts, and my girlfriend and a bunch of my close friends tell me to just try it on for a little bit, do a test run, see how it fits. And I start being femme around them, and they use femme pronouns for me, and my best friend even helped me find the name Ezra. And Ezra is a name that is really important to me. The E is a personal preference. I've always had an affinity for E names. You can see Emily and Exotica for that. The Z is probably my favorite letter. It represents my bougie, complicated, intellectual ass. I always wanted an unusual letter. You can I wanted it to be a Z, an X, or something along those lines. And I found that. And the next letter is really interesting. The R is an homage to my previous name, Ryan. So, unlike a lot of my fellow trans folks, I never became disillusioned with my previous name. I think that's mostly attributed to the fact that Ryan is a fairly androgynous name. I think it's 10 to 1 between men and women, which is pretty high on the androgyny scale. And I've met a female Ryan, which I remember giving me weird feelings, but didn't think much of it at the time. And so I wanted to have something like that in my name, because I will be going by Ezra. I thought for a while there I was just going to be Ryan, but woman. But I fell in love with this fucking name, so I keep this one. And the A just has a feminine kick that I've always enjoyed. And you can kind of see that on Exotica. A fun fact with Exotica, I used to be known as Exotic for a long time, but in one of the Discord servers I was in, everyone decided to put an A at the end of their name to make the female version of their name, which is the funniest joke I've ever heard. But I put an A at the end of my name and then never stopped having that A. I liked it a lot. And so I kept the A and changed it on everything I had. And yeah, after I found the name Ezra, I absolutely fell head over heels for it. And then I started crying again because, God damn it. These feelings are fucking rough to deal with. So on that note, we go to therapy. Therapy time. Good God, a bitch needs therapy. She keeps crying so damn much. And so I go to my therapist with this conviction that I'm going to figure it out. It's time to fucking figure it out. I'm tired of not knowing, and I'm gonna figure it out. So I go to my therapist and I'm like, let's figure this out. Let's please figure this out. I'm very confused on how to define myself. It feels weird to even care about the definition. Does the definition matter? I didn't care for labels before this, but now it seems like I should really fucking care. I absolutely fucking hate the male label assigned to me, and what all does that mean? Am I a trans woman? There's tons of assumptions that come with being a trans woman. Do I really want that? And I'm absolutely going in circles in front of my poor therapist about this, and she stops me. She stops me and goes, "Oh my God, you're depressing me." Which was really funny. She's like, "You're making me sad about this, which should be a really joyous occasion." She was like, "You need to stop trying to define it because you're going to ruin it for yourself. And you just need to live it. You need to focus on living it. Just be pretty. God damn it." She just tells me to be fucking pretty and stop trying to define it. And so I make a deal with her that I'm not going to define it. I'm not going to try and define it for over a year. It actually ends up being like 3 months. But I make a deal with her that I'm not going to define it for over a year. And so now I'm going to start trying to focus on being pretty and happy. And I'm going to just do the damn thing about being pretty, because it's the only thing I know and that's the only thing I want to be. So I just want to be pretty. And so I try to focus on that. And then becoming a woman gives me an eating disorder. Uh-oh. God damn it. Ah, shit. Fuck. Yeah. So some context on this is I've always understood my weight to be, less than ideal when it comes to conventional attractiveness, but I never, I'd always been bullied by my weight, but it never really bothered me. It never affected my happiness much because I had contextualized my weight as just something to be, and I never had trouble dating. I never felt ugly, right? I knew I was conventionally less than ideal, but I didn't find myself ugly because my mental stats were through the fucking roof. I was the funniest motherfucker in any given room. Pretty sure I was the smartest motherfucker in any given room. And so I exuded a lot of confidence despite the fact. And I wasn't an asshole. It turns out in the dating scene, if you're just not a bad person, you can get pretty far. And so I've always had squeeze throughout my entire life. And it never really bothered my weight. Never bothered me. It never held me back in that sense. So I didn't care for it. And then suddenly I started caring deeply about how I looked because I want to be pretty. So I'm looking myself in the mirror, and I'm seeing my weight again, and I don't like it. I don't think it's very pretty. And there's I want to be thick, obviously, with 2 C's, but I genuinely just didn't like a lot of my weight. And I became really insecure about it. And I started counting calories, which is dangerous math. And feeling hungry, or more accurately, starving, started feeling good. It felt productive. It felt right to do, because I was losing this thing I didn't care for. And yeah, that was rough. And then I go back to my therapist and I'm like, "Hey, so I've stopped eating almost entirely. I think I had quantified it. I was eating like 80% less food than I usually would. I went from eating 3 decent meals to 1 small meal a day. And I was like, look, I'm trying to lose weight because it makes me really unhappy. But I've stopped eating food, and generally that is known to be a bad thing. So I'm coming to you to talk to you about that." And she stops me and she goes, "Okay, do you know what happens to your body when you starve yourself?" She's like, "Before you even get into the emotional side of it or the psychological side of it, do you know what happens like biomechanically to your body?" And I sheepishly went, "No, not really, actually. I assume you lose weight, because like, why else would you do it? Why else would so many people do it?" And she goes, "No, actually, it doesn't really work like that. So when you start starving yourself, turns out, I didn't know this, your body goes into a fight or flight mode. We are survival creatures. All of a sudden, you stop giving your body food, and it tries desperately to hold on to as much fat and weight as possible. You'll lose weight, but it's coming from your muscles, not fat. And it's because your cells are shrinking. They're not actually going away. And so as soon as you start eating again, that weight comes back almost instantly. So starving yourself is actually not good to do if you're truly trying to lose weight. And that's how it becomes such a vicious cycle, is because you'll start starving yourself and you'll lose weight rapidly because you're starving yourself, and you'll look really good and you'll feel good about the way you look, and then you'll start eating a little bit more because you're feeling good, and then the weight comes back, and then the cycle repeats, and that's how you get caught in this loop. And luckily I had readily access to therapy, and I got caught before I started going down that path, and after a few weeks, I've mostly come back to normal eating habits. I skip probably one too many meals on occasion, but doing a lot better. So let's do the damn thing. Clothes, makeup, all the things. My girlfriend becomes a huge support. Like 99% of all of my physical transition has been through her, because she's so eager to doll me up and educate me and help me out, and she's so excited. And a very real stressing point was, she fell in love with Ryan, and what does that mean for Ezra? And she told me that she fell in love with my mental stats. She fell in love with my mental, and mentally I am still the same person as I was. I'm just realizing, my true self, and that she still absolutely loves me, which was really good to hear. And I know that is a rare thing to have, so I'm forever grateful for her. I love her a lot. And God, I look pretty. Look at me go. Oh, so pretty. And to conclude this, who am I now? This is where that asterisk at the very start comes into play. If you were keen-eyed and saw that when I said I'm a trans woman, I had an asterisk at the end of that. The asterisk is because I'm still not entirely sure, right? So it's been a while now, and I would like to try and define it. And I start going about this in lots of different ways, looking at psychology through the fucking roof, debating tons of trans people and non-trans people, and trying to truly figure this out. And what I come to the realization is that no one fucking knows. No one knows what defines a woman. And I don't think I'll ever find a definition that I find satisfactory. And it feels so strange to identify so strongly with being a woman. I feel like I'm going to the other side of the coin, but I don't really believe in the coin itself. A binary gender system doesn't seem true to what I believe existence is. Splitting existence into two halves and putting labels on them doesn't seem to be the actual case. And I still fucking hate labels. I find most labels to be reductive and just to put someone in a box so you can point and laugh at that box, typically with memes. And I think pointing and laughing at people's boxes is stupid, and I hate it a ton. And I have to put myself in this trans woman box because it's the easiest way to communicate a mass amount of information. But the nuance really is in this, that I truly don't know. I call myself a woman because that's how I feel, but that doesn't really tell you much about me. There's tons of different women, and I really think we should just abolish gender. But to get past that, there are some things that I know for sure. I don't know if I'm a woman, but all I know is that I want to be pretty. I want people to call me pretty. I want people to call me Ezra because I really like that name. I think that name is very pretty. I want people to use she, her pronouns with me because I think those are also very pretty, and it makes me happy. And so that's all I really know. So, and with what the future holds, I don't know. I've been kind of staring at hormonal therapy, like, from a distance. I don't know if that's something I want to do, but I keep looking at it. So maybe. I definitely think I will change my name legally soon here, because I can't. I can't stand the fact that I have to have my legal name in certain areas. Um, so, yeah. But that's it. Thank you for listening. I'm sure this was incoherent at times, but these are all thoughts I have and feel and are very real to me. So thank you for listening and respecting all of it. Have a good one.